Hey there, Dingo Stu here. Today's video is about a bit of a storm we had, a yacht salvage, and is proudly sponsored by marineengine.com. So we've had some pretty bad weather. Rain was predicted, which is why I knew I wasn't going to get to align the engine, but it turned out to be a little bit worse than I expected. On the Sunday there was quite a bit of rain and wind, and I had a call from a mate saying my boat's disappeared, can you help me look for it? So let's start there. More rain. Unfortunately though, a mate just called saying his boat's missing, rope's broken, so just going to go out and look for it. We had a lot of wind, sort of east-southeast, so head west, see if we find it. Clearly the front gate seals well. Oh. Oops. Bushfires, never going to have floods, aren't we?
So we headed off upstream, sort of basically following the wind, hoping that we'd come across the boat. Wasn't a great day to go boating, of course, but you know, heading with the wind, it was actually reasonably comfortable in the scheme of things. Got all the way down towards Mooney, went round Snake Island, no sign of the boat, unfortunately. Then it was time to turn around and head back upstream, which was a bit less comfortable because you're kind of punching into the waves, but you know, we made it. Quick check of Renko, it was sitting quite nicely, so that's good. No dramas there.
Road's getting more and more flooded. After the storm, quite a lot of boats had sunk, but I saw a mast sticking out of the water that made me particularly sad because it belonged to a good friend of mine who had been working on his boat a lot, like really pouring his heart and soul into it. So I gave him a call and said, you know, I noticed your boat down, do you need a hand? And he said, yeah, you know, it's got to be raised. So I met him 8 o'clock the next morning and worked with Jeff and Steve, who's our local, they do a whole lot of stuff around the river. Broken Bay Barges is their company. You'll see the name and number on the side of their barge. And they're kind of local legends around here. They hearts of gold and really good at everything on the river that needs doing, sort of thing. So he gave them a call, and of course they came out and gave him a hand. And I gave those guys a hand just doing a bit of diving to get some slings under the boat so we could eventually raise it up and pump it out. So we'll take a look at that too.
It's probably fair to say the amount of fresh water and high tides combined to make life a little bit more difficult. It's not often all the ramps, the pontoons point upwards rather than downwards. Normally a really high tide is just horizontal.
Before it was time to meet up with Andy, I just went for a little cruise around the bay just to see the damage, and yeah, a couple of catamarans in trouble, sadly as well. And then a little bit further on there I saw a nice motor cruiser with just the flybridge poking out. A couple of older boats. This actually was a nice sailing boat, looked reasonably new, just broken its mooring by the looks of it. Another older one sunk. A lot of the trouble really was just moorings that dragged rather than boats that sunk.
Pulling from one of the halyards to try and get it over. It's now or never. This is kind of the highest tide we're ever going to have.
Drag moorings obviously means boats against each other as well as boats just in totally different places. The reason the moorings drag often is because of this. Debris builds up in front of the boat and the hydrostatic pressure just pushes the boat downstream.
It's pretty funny.
Next job was to clear a bit of a log away from Arne's boat, Rosie.
If I drive it forward...
Do you want me to let go of the mooring?
Yeah, see if you can let go on the mooring, let that go.
You got a stick on your mooring, Arnie?
Yeah.
Did you see that?
It's quite chunky. Yep, got it.
After I cleared some debris away from Renko's mooring as well, just sat on deck and watched all the junk float by. Plenty of it. There was a bit of water in the wheelhouse of Renko, because I left the back door open. I thought it's going to happen again, so I drilled a hole to send that water down into the engine bay.
I might actually find a tube, 10mm tube with a lip that goes down and just deposits the water 10 centimeters below the deck, stop it running along the insulation or whatever. Anyway, at least it's gone. Can start to dry out now.
Oh dear, this little petrol's getting the bow pushed down.
Heading out now to try and salvage Andy's yacht that sank. My job really is just to get some slings under it, but with the water like it is, I think it's all going to be done by feel, so not much point even taking a camera, it's just going to be black. Anyway, it's got to be done, so let's give it a shot. Here we come to our sad quarry. Here comes Jeff and Steve with the barge, with the crane on the front.
While Jeff and Steve got their barge in position, I figured I may as well start rigging up the scuba gear. It's not a particularly deep dive, it's only about 10 metres deep here, so, it didn't go overboard with the gear, but unfortunately there's no really easy way of getting slings under a boat without jumping in the water.
Just anchoring in position at the moment. While we're waiting for the anchoring to finish, the basic idea behind this is that because the boat's completely submerged and is displacing water, it doesn't weigh as much as it normally does. It varies depending on density. I think concrete loses 40% of its weight in water. I'll get the figures when I get back to the house. So the idea is that and obviously glass is less dense, fiberglass, wood, all that kind of stuff. So you don't actually need a huge crane to get a boat to the surface, but you suddenly need an enormous one to get it beyond the surface. So the idea is you lift it to the surface, get the gunnels above water, start pumping the water out and get it to float on its own. So that's the plan. Of course, we still have no idea why this boat sunk in the first place. Does it have a big hole in it? I'm not going to sea diving, that's for sure.
Water's not good at the best of times, but that is going to be pitch black by about 2 or 3 meters deep, guaranteed.
The stays and chain plates on this boat are actually brand new and very, very strong. So that actually allowed us to lift the boat from the mast essentially, just enough that we could drag it into shallower water, which made getting the slings on much, much easier.
Hit the bottom. Got it into shallow water now. Keel's back on the bottom, but it's pretty shallow here.
Next step was for me to jump in the water again, go for another dive, and feed particularly the back sling between the rudder and the keel, because there's no other way to get it in. The front you can kind of slip over, but this one we had to dive and push it through. Before doing the actual lift, Steve wanted to lower the ramps on the barge just into the mud to give the barge more stability. That's normally done with the crane that was currently holding the yacht upright, so we had a go at just putting a line on them and pulling them over with the boat, but particularly in reverse there wasn't enough bite on the prop, so we ended up just having to let the boat heel over again and then use the crane to drop the ramps in. Then, because I was already in a boat, I just ducked over there and put the sling back on the hook for the crane so we could get on with the lift again. Once the gunnels were lifted above water by the crane, we just threw the pumps in and pumped all the water out. Ended up using 3 pumps in the end. I think all 3 pumps were all 200cc pumps, about 2-inch. So it was nice to have the extra capacity. Otherwise we would have been waiting all day. Gradually started to float though. You can just see it sort of starting to rock in the cradle of the crane, so it didn't have any tension on it anymore, which was a nice sign. That's the kind of the moment where you feel like you've broken the back of it and you're going to succeed. water's coming out of the boat faster than it's going in, so even if it's got a leak, you know, it's okay. This little pump was very cool. This belonged to Neil, another local guy, water taxi driver, and this pump's actually cable driven, so the pump head is in the boat as well as the outlet. Very cool little pumps for this type of salvage. No priming issues, can pump mud, sludge, whatever. They're very cool pumps. Having done an awesome job as always and getting the yacht floating again, Jeff and Steve departed, giving the ramps a few dunks up and down in the river to get the mud off before they put them away permanently.
Alright, let's tie this baby somewhere safe.
Not long into the tow though, Rob came along with Rick in Google, which is a little boat that helped launch Renko initially, and Rob's also the guy that towed Renko to the shore. So he pulled up and said, do you want a hand towing it, which was awesome.
Our merry little convoy is almost at a safe mooring for the night. I'm just going to hand the mooring rope up to Andy because he doesn't have a boat hook on board.
It actually turned out I had the boat hook from Renko with me because I'd been clearing some debris, so I just gave that to Andy instead.
Between your bow rod, just chuck it, Andy. Yeah. If it's too short, you can always put one of your...
That should be right. That'll be right. Like, get it over.
Can you swap the anchor to the other side? Lovely.
Thank you, man.
No worries, anytime, mate.
I'll speak to you.
Yeah. In the end, we got Andy's boat raised again and back onto a mooring, so that was a good outcome. Fortunately, there's not much in the boat that he's lost. I don't know if you saw, maybe somewhere in there was a generator, a few tools, that kind of stuff, but fundamentally he'd stripped the boat. He's been doing a lot of work on it. He'd actually gutted a lot of the interior, and he has a brand new engine for the boat that's still sitting in a crate in his workshop, so, you know, very good fortune on that front, you know, a bit of a silver lining to the cloud. That means that he can then just get in there, start cleaning it out, and hopefully, other than maybe a bit of wiring, kind of be back on track with this restoration he's doing, so that's great news. Down the track, we'll actually revisit it. Andy, by trade, is a builder, like a house builder, and does some amazing timber work. He's done some great work on the timber in that boat. I've been meaning to show some of the work Andy's been doing on his boat in the past, because he's been doing such a great job on the timber work. He made a little sandblaster, a steamer, all sorts of things, and he's been doing some incredible work there. So I think he's going to push on. Yeah, okay, it's going to set him back a few weeks, drying it out, cleaning it out, all that kind of stuff, but it's nice to know that he can sort of push on, eventually get his brand new engine back in, and, you know, hopefully still pursue his dream of making this beautiful yacht that he's been working towards. So, you know, it's not ideal, but it could have been worse for him, so that's great. Anyway, things are starting to settle down, get back to normal finally. Time to get back towards aligning the engine, but if you're wondering what the delay's been, that's what's been going on. All right, well, take care, and I'll catch you soon. See ya.
Between really high tides, washing stuff off the shore, and stuff that's been washed down stormwater drains, it's just disgusting. Big cleanup. Do you want to get a long rope and get it onto your winch, or just pull your winch cable out?
Who says I've got a winch handle?
Oh, really? Oh, you goose. Keep the momentum. Nice. Hang on, well, we should have got that tree out first, maybe. No, just so you can get on the trailer. This thing's got a branch under there.
Okay, we're going back.
You idiot. You don't have a winch handle, seriously? I knew you'd have a winch handle somewhere.